Turning to the White House race, where several campaign fundraising numbers are out, Hillary Clinton's campaign has reportedly raised $28 million. Sounds pretty good, right? But rival Bernie Sanders is not far behind with $25 million.
Joining us to break down these figures are senior political editor Steve Chaggaris and USA Today senior political correspondent Heidi Pryzbyla. Steve, let's start with you. Hillary Clinton is running a much bigger operation, yet she raised only about $4 million more than Bernie Sanders. What's going on there?
Well, I have to say, when I saw the figures last night, I was just stunned. I mean, let's put it in perspective. Bernie Sanders, I think, in any other year would be considered a fringe candidate, and he has matched Hillary Clinton's fundraising last quarter. And just looking at the two operations, you've got Hillary Clinton, who has, a few hundred employees. She's running television ads. She held 66 fundraisers last quarter, and she pulled in $28 million, which is a respectable number. Bernie Sanders is running a lean operation. He's raising most of his money online. He is raising it from small donations and basically matched her. I think this is just an indication, maybe, that where Democrats are right now in this race, and maybe the enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton isn't where it should be at this point. And this, I think, has to be a wake-up call to the Clinton campaign, that a guy like Bernie Sanders, who basically 6 months ago no one would have ever taken seriously, has not only caught up with her in the polls and is either beating her in some of these states in the polls or neck and neck, but he has now tied her in fundraising, at least for last quarter.
Heidi, what is your assessment? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's all the more striking. I agree 100%, but it's all the more striking looking at how he did it, which Steve mentioned the number of fundraisers and the pavement pounding that Hillary Clinton has been doing with the 66 fundraisers. Well, Bernie's done about 7, far less than even half of that. So a lot of his money is coming in from these small donors. That's a pump that they can keep priming and that's a well they can keep going back to. So that's something that's also very alarming, I think, for the campaign. But the other thing that I think is being reflected here that may be good news for Clinton is that I also think that there's a lot of donors who are just waiting it out. They're waiting on the sidelines. Why? Because you've got a guy named Joe Biden who hasn't made up his mind. A lot of the same donors that would be and should have been going to Clinton right now are waiting to see what he does. So I think once that is determined, one way or the other, we'll see a clearer path for her getting more of these big ticket donors. Right now, I think a lot of hers are kind of tapped out, and that's bad news for her. But given that we don't have this Biden issue settled, it could lead to greater gains in the future for her.
That's a great point that Heidi raises, and also keep in mind too that Hillary does have a super PAC working on her behalf that will be raising millions and spending on television advertising on her behalf. So in terms of the larger game, yes, she's going to be fine, I think, money-wise, but I just think it's an indicator that there's a lot more support for a guy that nobody really thought was going to be, and like I said, I think he would have been a fringe candidate any other year, and right now he is running neck and neck with her in the polls and in fundraising.
Steve, you can't really talk about Clinton's campaign, or at least every time Clinton's campaign comes up, the question of the email scandal comes up and whether or not it's impacting her at the polls. But now, can we say that it may be having an impact on her fundraising ability as well?
I just think there's a greater enthusiasm issue that she's dealing with, and Heidi's point too about the Biden people waiting. I mean, Hillary will get those people on her side if Biden decides not to jump in. So the money numbers, I think, will look a little bit better for her if Biden says he's not going to run. Oh, go ahead, Heidi.
I just really think it's concerns about electability, because if you go into the polling, and this is a problem I've had from the beginning about the whole email controversy, is that if you go into every single one of these polls and you look at the party breakout differences, the email scandal wasn't really having much of an impact on voters who identify as Democrats. It's voters who identify as independents and Republicans. And as you know, those are people who are probably not going to be her most fervent donors going into a primary. So depending on what happens with the scandal, a lot of these people could decide to really open up their wallets.
Heidi, back to Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, I think there's just also a lack of enthusiasm among Democrats right now. And there's more enthusiasm for a guy like Bernie Sanders in terms of what he's saying on the issues. And you've seen her repeatedly over the last couple of months really sort of match Sanders on these issues. I mean, she just came out this week on being against the Cadillac tax with with Obamacare. That was something that Bernie Sanders did last week. And so in terms of the issues, I think there's a less enthusiasm for a Hillary Clinton candidacy. Not that's going to kill her, but and more enthusiasm for Sanders. I think that's a little bit what you're seeing here too.
Heidi, I want to go back to Joe Biden for a moment. You have written extensively about his record. If he were to jump into the race, would he be able to immediately sort of contend with some of the challenges that he'd be facing?
Well, this goes back to the old truism in politics that you never look better than the day before you announce. And that's not to say that all candidates, face the same issue. Right now, people are looking to Joe Biden as kind of an escape hatch with all of the issues with Hillary. But Joe Biden has a very long career. That is his in politics and serving in government. That is his greatest asset. But it also could be his greatest liability because 36 years of casting votes gives opposition researchers lots of material to work with. So there's lots of good things that he did that will help him in a primary, like championing the Violence Against Women Act, like coming out early on gay marriage. But there are also things in there that could be a real problem. And guess what? They're very similar to the same problems that Hillary Clinton has. For example, with the impression among like Sanders voters that she's too cozy with Wall Street. If you look at Joe Biden's role in Congress in pushing forward bankruptcy legislation, that was his bill. He was really pushing very hard for this bankruptcy bill that now is viewed as something that made it very hard on Americans who legitimately and legally qualify for filing for bankruptcy to kind of put additional burdens on them, financial burdens to do so. It's very closely linked to all the problems that a lot of the students are having now with getting rid of their debts. So that's something that's he's going to have to answer for. I spoke with his former top economic advisor, Jared Bernstein, the other day. He said that the vice president has evolved on this issue since the 2008 financial crisis, but he even agreed that it's something that he would have to come out and explain. Secondly, his voting on the crime bill and his championing of the 1994 crime bill. Again, lots of good things it did, like with the assault weapon ban, but also given the context right now of the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the attention right now on prison reform and police brutality, this was, again, Joe Biden and Bill Clinton doing this arm in arm, this crime bill that is now, in hindsight, blamed for some of the high incarceration rates of African American and Latino males because it provided financial incentives for states to imprison youth and keep them there for longer periods of time. So these are all things, not necessarily deal breakers. Nobody can read the tea leaves exactly, but things that he'll definitely have to explain should he become a candidate.
All right, Steve Chaggaris and Heidi Pryzbyla, thank you very much.
Thanks.